As the golden light of day wanes over Athens, the marble temples atop the Acropolis glow in warm hues. In the hush of dusk, a gentle breeze whispers through olive trees and across the ageless stones. This quiet hour invites us to wander back in time, to walk beside ancient philosophers as they pondered life's deepest questions. On this tranquil journey, we will meet wise thinkers of ancient Greece and listen to their stories and ideas, calmly unfolding like a bedtime tale. Their voices come to us softly across the centuries, guiding us through thoughts of virtue, knowledge, the soul, and the good life. Long before our journey brings us to the familiar figures of Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, others had already started the great conversation. In earlier days, under these same starry skies, sages known as the pre-Socratics wondered about the nature of the cosmos. They watched the stars and tides, imagining that a single substance, water, air, or fire, might be the origin of all things. But soon the focus of philosophy would turn inward toward the mysteries of the human self. In the gentle twilight of Athens we find Socrates, a humble stonecutter turned philosopher who begins to ask new questions about how to live a good and virtuous life. It is a warm evening in Athens, around the 5th century BCE. In the open-air agora, the public marketplace, vendors pack up their wares as the day winds down. Among the fading bustle walks Socrates, barefoot and wrapped in a simple cloak. His face is not that of a polished statesman, but of a kindly artisan, balding, with a snub nose and deep-set eyes that twinkle with curiosity. He greets young and old with a gentle smile, engaging them in conversation. Rather than lecturing, Socrates asks questions, simple yet profound. What is virtue? He might ask a proud soldier. What is justice? He inquires of a statesman. His questions float on the evening air, unassuming but persistent, inviting those around him to pause and reflect. Socrates has no grand temple or formal school. The city of Athens itself is his classroom. He speaks with craftspeople under the colonnades and chats with youths by the temple steps. At first, his inquiries seem innocent. He asks a question, listens quietly to the answer, then asks another, digging a bit deeper each time. With patience and good humor, Socrates gently reveals that even the wisest Athenians do not fully understand the virtues they claim to possess. He often insists that he himself knows little or nothing. This humble unknowing is the starting point of his wisdom, to realize how much one does not know. As twilight deepens, one can imagine a small circle of listeners gathered around Socrates, their heads tilted in thought, the din of the marketplace giving way to the soft murmur of philosophical dialogue. Through these nightly conversations, Socrates becomes the first Greek philosopher to seriously explore ethical questions, questions about how to live and what it means to be good. He cares little for the celestial mechanics that fascinated his predecessors. Instead, he turns his gaze within to the soul of each person he meets. We must tend to our souls, he suggests, as if the soul were a garden to be cultivated with virtue and understanding. Indeed, Socrates believes that care of the soul, nurturing one's inner goodness, is the most important human obligation. Wealth, fame, and even health are secondary to the condition of one's soul. He teaches that if one truly knows what is good, one will do what is good. In his view, all virtue is a form of knowledge. And so he encourages his fellow Athenians to seek wisdom above all else. for a wise and virtuous soul will naturally lead to a just and happy life. Not everyone appreciates Socrates' gentle but probing questions. In time, powerful figures in the city grow uneasy with this aging gadfly who can make esteemed men appear ignorant in public. Eventually, Socrates is accused of impiety and of corrupting the youth of Athens. The setting shifts to a quiet courtroom at dusk, where Socrates stands before his fellow citizens to defend his way of life. Even faced with condemnation, his voice remains calm and unwavering. He tells the jury that he will not abandon his search for truth and virtue, for the unexamined life is not worth living. These words hang in the air like a solemn bell. Though they do not save him from the guilty verdict, they resonate far beyond that moment, echoing in the hearts of future generations. Socrates is sentenced to death, yet even in his final days, he imparts wisdom. In a dim prison cell, as friends gather in sorrow, Socrates speaks of the soul's immortality and reasons that a true philosopher should not fear death. When the moment comes, he accepts the cup of hemlock poison with steady hands and a peaceful heart. He comforts his weeping companions, asking them not to grieve, for no harm can come to a good person in life or in death. As night falls, Socrates drinks the bitter draught and lies down, his final breaths as gentle as a man fallen asleep. He leaves the world as he lived in it, calm, courageous, and true to his principles. Thus ends the life of Socrates, the first of our guides on this journey. His legacy, however, is just the beginning. Among those who loved and learned from him was a devoted pupil named Plato, who would carry Socrates' questions and spirit forward. Socrates' dedication to virtue and his serene acceptance of fate profoundly inspire Plato. And so, as one chapter closes under the Athenian stars, another quietly begins. In the years after Socrates' passing, Athens eventually finds an uneasy peace. We now walk along a dusty road just outside the city walls. In the early 4th century BCE, the sun is low in the sky, casting long shadows of olive branches across the path. Here lies a small sanctuary of wisdom, a sacred grove of olive trees dedicated to Athena, the goddess of wisdom. Amid this grove stands Plato's Academy, not a grand marble edifice, but a modest gathering place beneath open skies and rustling leaves, a serene olive grove in the Mediterranean dusk, reminiscent of the groves where Plato taught. In this peaceful garden outside Athens, Plato gathers a circle of inquisitive minds. Students and travelers from afar sit on stone benches or in the grass, their faces softly illuminated by the late afternoon glow. Plato, once a young man devastated by Socrates' death, is now a calm and thoughtful teacher in his 40s. His voice is low and melodic, weaving gentle stories to convey ideas. Rather than simply telling his students what to think, he poses questions and creates dialogues, much like Socrates did. The Academy feels less like a formal school and more like a timeless retreat for the mind, a place where questions blossom like wildflowers and every answer leads to new wonder. One quiet evening at the Academy, Plato begins to share a now famous parable, a story that, like a dream, carries a hidden truth. He asks his students to imagine people living in a deep cave from birth, seeing only shadows flickering on a wall from objects passing in front of a fire. This, he explained softly, is like our own condition in the world. We often take the shadows of life for reality, not realizing there is a brighter world beyond our immediate senses. In the story, one prisoner is freed and ventures outside the cave. Blinking in the sudden sunlight, at first he is overwhelmed and in pain. The light is blinding compared to the darkness he's always known. But slowly, he perceives the world beyond the cave, the true forms of the objects that had cast those shadows, and above all, the sun in the sky, shining down and illuminating everything. Plato's voice is gentle yet vivid as he describes the freed prisoner returning to the cave, eager to share with his friends what he has seen. But the others, accustomed only to shadows, do not understand him. Some even grow angry at the suggestion of a reality beyond their familiar darkness, and they refuse to follow him out of the cave. Through this gentle allegory of the cave, Plato helps his listeners feel the difference between illusion and truth. He believes that what we grasp with our senses in daily life is only a faint shadow of a higher, more enduring reality. Somewhere beyond the physical world, in a realm accessible only to the mind, lie the pure forms or ideas, perfect versions of all the things we encounter imperfectly on earth. Justice, beauty, goodness. These are not mere words for Plato, but eternal ideals. Our souls, he teaches, are on a journey to recall and reconnect with these shining truths. It is as if every act of learning is not discovering something new, but remembering something our soul knew long ago. Plato's philosophy flows from a deep wellspring of hope, the conviction that there is more to reality than meets the eye. His beloved teacher Socrates had focused on ethical living, and Plato carries that torch forward. But he also extends its light into the vastness of the cosmos. He envisions a universe where the highest principle, the form of the good, is like the sun, illuminating all other truths and giving life and meaning to the world. To live well, then, is not only to act virtuously, but also to know the good itself, to align one's soul with that ultimate light of truth. Achieving this is no simple matter. Plato speaks of the soul as having three parts: reason, spirit, and appetite, each pulling us in different directions. A person must educate and harmonize these parts of the soul, much as a lyre must be tuned to give a beautiful chord. Reason should guide us, spirited courage should strengthen us, and bodily desires or appetites must be kept moderate. When these parts are in harmony, a person becomes just and virtuous, reflecting the balance of a well-ordered soul. In Plato's view, the just person, whose soul is in tune, lives the truly good life. Life at the Academy is gentle but disciplined. By day, students might debate mathematics and geometry, subjects Plato believes help train the mind to recognize eternal patterns. By evening, they stroll under the olive trees, discussing virtue, the fate of the soul, and the nature of the universe. Plato encourages them all to be seekers, to always ask why, and what is it really, of everything, from the laws of the city to the stars above. He himself writes his teachings in the form of dialogues, lively conversations, often featuring his dear Socrates as a character who asks questions and teases out answers. In this way, Plato keeps Socrates' spirit alive, playfully yet earnestly examining every idea for its truth. The students at the Academy are not given rote lessons, but are invited to think for themselves, gently guided by Plato's probing questions and imaginative stories. Under a violet twilight sky, Plato often muses about the nature of the soul. He shares his belief that the soul is immortal and had knowledge of the forms before we were born into this world. Thus, learning is, in a sense, an act of remembering what the soul has already seen in its pure state. Perhaps, he suggests, this is why we sometimes grasp a truth or recognize beauty, and it feels familiar, as if our soul recalls a vision it had long ago. Such poetic thoughts drift through the Academy's garden like the scent of night-blooming flowers. His students listen, comforted by the notion that their souls partake in something eternal and divine. Years pass in this idyllic grove of wisdom. Plato ages gracefully, becoming the wise elder he was destined to be. When he speaks of justice, he not only means personal virtue, but also dreams of an ideal society ruled by philosopher kings, compassionate sages who love truth above power. Yet even as he sketches these grand ideas, his tone remains hopeful and calm. He knows the world may never perfectly match his ideal republic, but he believes that aiming for wisdom and justice elevates both individuals and communities. To the end of his days, Plato remains what his name has come to mean, a philosopher, a lover of wisdom. He lights a small flame in the hearts of those who hear him, a longing for truth and goodness, a flame that will not be easily extinguished. As the gentle night falls once more over the Academy, we take our leave of Plato's grove. The olive leaves whisper in the breeze as if to say farewell. Plato's work has set guiding lights in the sky, ideals of truth, beauty, justice, and the immortal soul, lights that will guide seekers for millennia to come. One of those seekers, a brilliant young mind who studied under Plato for 20 years, is now ready to guide us next. In the soft glow of an Athenian dawn, Aristotle awaits, prepared to walk with us from the quiet garden into the wide world. Morning light seeps through the colonnades of another Athenian school, a public exercise ground and grove known as the Lyceum. The air is fresh and carries the scent of dew on grass and wildflowers. Young students gather under the shelter of a covered walkway and along sun-dappled paths. Some unroll scrolls and wax tablets, ready to take notes. Aristotle, once a star pupil of Plato and now a philosopher in his own right, steps into the courtyard with a welcoming smile. He is around 40 years old, with a neatly trimmed beard and observant eyes that seem to notice every detail, from the flutter of a sparrow in a nearby fig tree to the eager posture of a student brimming with questions. Aristotle begins his day's lesson not by sitting down, but by walking. He beckons his students to stroll with him through the Lyceum's pleasant pathways as he teaches, earning his school the nickname Peripatetic, the walking school. With each gentle footfall on the damp earth, he encourages them to observe the world around them, the shape of leaves, the behavior of an ant trail, the way the morning sunlight dances on the gymnasium's columns. To Aristotle, knowledge begins with careful observation of nature and life in all its forms. Unlike Plato, whose eyes turn toward eternal ideals in the heavens, Aristotle's gaze is lovingly fixed on the earth and all its living richness. He believes every aspect of the natural world and every experience of human life is worth studying. And so, the Lyceum becomes a place of expansive learning, where discussions range from biology and poetry to logic, ethics, politics, and beyond. Nothing is too small or too common to wonder about. Aristotle finds as much marvel in the anatomy of a fish or the logic of an argument, as in the movements of the stars. Despite the vast scope of his interests, Aristotle's most tender and lasting teachings center on a fundamental question. What is the good life for a human being? In the cool shade of a portico, Aristotle addresses this question with his students in practical, down-to-earth terms. Everything in nature, he observes, has a purpose or function, ergon. The eye has the function of seeing. A bird's wings have the function of flying. What, then, is the unique function of a human being? Aristotle proposes that it is our capacity for reason, for thoughtful reflection, that is, the distinctive gift of humanity. Living well, therefore, involves using reason to guide our lives toward excellence, toward being the best we can be. He speaks of excellence in terms of virtues, good qualities of character like courage, temperance, self-control, generosity, and justice. Virtue, Aristotle teaches, isn't simply about following rules imposed from outside. It is about cultivating good habits of behavior and emotion within ourselves. Every virtue lies as a balance between two extremes, a principle he calls the golden mean. Courage, for example, is the mean between rash recklessness on one side and cowardly fear on the other. Generosity lies between wasteful extravagance and miserly stinginess. By using our reason, we learn to find the right measure in our actions and feelings. This balanced moderation, the golden mean, leads to harmony in our character and guides us toward true well-being. Aristotle speaks warmly about happiness, which in Greek is eudaimonia, often translated as happiness or flourishing. Far from a fleeting mood or a simple feeling of pleasure, eudaimonia is, for Aristotle, the highest good for a person, a deep fulfillment that comes from living a virtuous and complete life. This kind of happiness is an activity, not a passive state. It is the active living of life in accordance with virtue. One can see Aristotle pause under a fruit tree in the Lyceum's garden, picking up a fallen apple as a handy metaphor. He explains that just as an acorn's goal is to grow into a strong oak tree, a person's goal, our telos or end, is to grow into our fullest self, a person of virtue and reason. Achieving this true happiness is a lifelong journey and an active process. It requires making wise choices, developing good habits, and finding meaning in one's roles, relationships, and work. The reward of this journey is a contentment far more profound and stable than any momentary pleasure. Importantly, Aristotle notes, eudaimonia is self-sufficient and worth pursuing for its own sake. We seek happiness not as a means to something else, but as the ultimate end that makes life worth living. It is, in a sense, the harmonious tune that a life played with virtue will eventually produce. Students at the Lyceum come from all walks of Greek life, from the sons of statesmen to curious young men from distant cities. Aristotle tailors his teaching to practical matters as well, knowing that a good theory must also be livable. He converses with them about friendship, noting that true friends seek the good for each other and help each other grow in virtue. A comforting thought. That companionship is an essential part of a life well lived. He delves into politics, describing it as the art of creating a society where it's easier for people to be good. He famously calls human beings political animals, meaning we are naturally inclined to live in communities, the polis, and that a good community nurtures the character of its citizens. All the while, Aristotle's approach remains grounded. When a student asks, "How do we become good in practice?" Aristotle smiles and offers a simple, homely example. We become just by doing just acts, temperate by doing temperate acts, brave by doing brave acts. In other words, virtues are like skills. We learn them by doing. Just as one becomes a skilled harpist by practicing the harp, one becomes virtuous by practicing virtuous actions, one small deed at a time. This notion that character is shaped by habits is encouraging because it means everyone can improve and build a better life by the choices they make every day. The scene shifts to midday. Sunbeams filter through the high columns of the Lyceum, illuminating drifting dust motes in the warm air, as Aristotle and his pupils conclude their morning discourse. He encourages them to take some time for quiet reflection after the active discussions. Some students sit with their backs against the cool stone walls, eyes closed as they absorb the morning's lessons. The Lyceum falls into a contemplative hush. Aristotle himself stands quietly, hands folded, radiating a sense of balance, a blend of intellectual vigor and kindly patience. He has spent long years studying in Plato's Academy and many more observing the world. Now, in guiding others, he seems content and centered. Here is a man who has found his own golden mean between thought and action, between study and teaching. Before the session ends, Aristotle shares one more gentle thought for his students to carry with them. He tells them that knowledge and virtue must grow together, hand in hand, as we come to truly understand what is good, not just with our analytical mind, but with our whole heart. We will naturally desire what is good. And as we choose good actions and make a habit of them, we actually shape our desires and feelings to love the good even more. Little by little, the practice of good actions forms our character until being virtuous becomes a joy rather than a struggle. In this way, wisdom and goodness become one in a person, and such a person can rightfully be called in the truest sense a philosopher, a lover of wisdom in both thought and deed. This holistic view of growth leaves the students feeling reassured that they can indeed become better over time with patience and practice. There is a serenity in knowing that each small effort, every act of honesty, kindness, or self-control contributes to a flourishing life. Aristotle's time in Athens eventually comes to a close, as all chapters do. Political winds shift, and he finds it wise to leave the city to avoid unrest, quipping that he will not let Athens sin twice against philosophy, a gentle reference to Socrates' fate. He retires to the countryside, and not long after, this great soul passes away quietly. Yet, like Socrates and Plato before him, Aristotle's ideas remain very much alive, lovingly recorded in his manuscripts and carried in the minds of his students. The pleasant grounds of the Lyceum grow silent, and the covered walkways empty, but the questions asked and insights shared there continue to inspire and comfort seekers of wisdom through the ages. In the garden of philosophy that the Greeks tended, new seeds are always sprouting, nourished by the wisdom of those who came before. Our journey through ancient Greek philosophy does not end with the trio of Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. Their legacy flows onward, like a calm river branching into new streams. In the centuries that follow, other philosophers take up the quest for the good life, each in their own gentle manner. Two paths in particular emerge in Hellenistic Athens, each named for the place where its founder taught. One path leads to a quiet garden, and the other to a painted porch, Stoa, in the heart of the city. In a simple house on the edge of Athens, with a modest courtyard lush with green, lives Epicurus. It is now the 3rd century BCE. Epicurus welcomes friends and students not as disciples, but as companions. In his little garden, all who seek peace are equals, whether rich or poor, free or enslaved, men or women. They gathered to share simple meals of bread, olives, and cheese, delighting in each other's company. Amid soft laughter and the fragrance of herbs, Epicurus imparts a philosophy of gentle contentment. He teaches that the highest happiness is found in tranquility, a state of ataraxia, complete peace of mind, free from fear and anxiety. To reach this state, one should live modestly, cherish simple pleasures, and cultivate a mind at ease. Epicurus encourages his friends to pursue pleasures wisely, choosing those that will sustain peace and avoiding those that lead to pain or worry. He actively counsels against chasing wealth or fame, for those often bring more trouble than joy. He even says one should not fear the gods, for the gods, if they exist, are serene and not concerned with human affairs. So we need not dread their wrath. And he advises not to fear death, famously reasoning that when we are here, death is not, and when death comes, we are not, meaning that in death we feel nothing at all, like a dreamless sleep, so it should not be feared. Listening to Epicurus in the dappled sunlight, one feels a great weight lifted, as if the knotted strands of worry were gently untied. Life in this little garden is about enjoying the simple joys available to us, the taste of cool water when thirsty, the bloom of a flower, the laughter of a friend, the contentment of a mind untroubled. With wise restraint, Epicurus advises that by wanting less, we feel rich. By fearing less, we become free. In this way, ataraxia, tranquil happiness, is within reach of everyone. As evening falls in the garden, the friends smile and converse, feeling safe and satisfied with little, their hearts as mild and sweet as the soft summer night. Across the city, under the painted colonnade of the Agora, another group of seekers gathers. It is the late 4th and 3rd centuries BCE, and here the Stoics, followers of Zeno and later Chrysippus, practice a philosophy of inner strength amid the bustle of daily life. The meeting place is the Stoa Poikile, the painted porch, adorned with colorful murals of legendary battles. But the Stoics are not drawn to the clamor of war. Their focus turns inward, to the battle within the soul, to achieve peace and virtue. They teach that the key to living well is to live in agreement with nature, accepting calmly whatever fate brings. Humans, they say, are unique in nature for our capacity to reason, and so our duty is to use that reason to live virtuously and in harmony with the rational order of the cosmos. For the Stoics, virtue is the only true good. Wealth, health, and other externals might be nice to have, but they are not truly good or bad in themselves. What matters is how we respond to whatever happens. Wisdom, justice, courage, and self-control are their guiding stars. Imagine a thoughtful Stoic philosopher, perhaps the gentle Epictetus, who was once a slave, speaking to a small crowd at the Stoa. His voice remained steady and warm as carts rattle by and merchants call out their wares nearby. He reminds his listeners that while we cannot control external events, we can always control our own thoughts and responses. In every circumstance, he says, we have a choice to meet it with virtue or with complaint. Choose virtue and you will find peace. The Stoics liken life to a play. We did not choose our role, but we can choose to play it nobly. If fate hands them hardship or pain, they strive to respond with courage and patience, seeing it as an opportunity to practice resilience. And if fortune brings them comfort or success, they accept it with gratitude, but do not cling to it, for they know that all things external are temporary gifts. Over time, the Stoics train themselves to desire only that which is within their own power, namely, their own virtue. By desiring nothing outside their control too fiercely, they achieve a kind of invincibility of spirit, a deep, calm resilience that external hardships cannot shatter. Though the garden of Epicurus and the porch of Zeno differ in their approaches, both echo the foundational wisdom laid down by Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. They continue the gentle pursuit of understanding how to live a good life. Whether through cultivating simple pleasures among friends or through practicing strict virtue and acceptance, these later sages strive for a kind of inner peace that one can carry through all of life's tempests. In both places, a visitor would find not grand pomp or stern lectures, but quiet conversations and modest lives that practice what they preach. The garden path and the city porch alike aim to guide the soul toward contentment and harmony with the world, each in their own soothing way. These philosophical schools become sanctuaries for the spirit, one amidst blooming flowers and laughter, the other under painted eaves in the city's heart, both dedicated to the idea that true happiness is found within, in the state of one's soul. A starry night sky stretches over distant hills, silent and eternal. Now our journey nears its end under the vast canopy of a Grecian night. The city of Athens grows still, its streets empty as one by one household lamps are gently snuffed out. Above, countless stars shimmer like cosmic embers in the velvet darkness, each perhaps a sun guiding unseen worlds. In this quiet moment, we pause to reflect on the gentle lessons of the ancient philosophers. Their voices, though separated from us by thousands of years, have guided us kindly through the dusk and into the night, offering wisdom as a soft lantern glow to illuminate our own path. As you settle in and gaze at the stars in your mind's eye, recall Socrates, the humble questioner, who reminds us that an unexamined life is not worth living. He encourages us to cherish the value of self-reflection and to care for our souls above all else. Remember Plato, pointing toward a higher reality, who urges us to seek what is truly true and truly good, nurturing the harmony within our soul and never mistaking shadows for the light. Think of Aristotle walking by your side, who gently explains that happiness is an activity of living well, achieved by practicing virtue in the little moments of each day. These philosophers sought wisdom not as an abstract puzzle or a cold lesson, but as a practical guide to living meaningfully. They spoke and lived in a way to help themselves and others grow in goodness and find peace amidst life's uncertainties. Picture yourself now strolling once more through an ancient olive grove at twilight. The air is warm and still. The silhouettes of the trees stand against a purple sky, and the scent of earth and olive leaves surrounds you. In this grove, you feel the presence of those wise friends we have met. It is as if their thoughts linger in the whisper of the branches and the softness of the night air. They have shared their insights through stories and questions, not to test or overwhelm you, but to soothe and inspire. Perhaps you carry a bit of Socrates' courage to question assumptions, a touch of Plato's hope for something higher, and some of Aristotle's balanced perspective about the here and now. Perhaps the tranquil resolve of Epicurus in his garden and the stoic steadiness of Zeno's porch also echo in your heart, reminding you to appreciate the simple blessings of life and to remain steady through its changes. In this final quiet reflection, allow their wisdom to settle over you like a gentle dew. There is no need to recall every detail or every name. Let go of any effort or strain. The aim of our journey was not to burden you with facts, but to cultivate a feeling, a calm assurance that humans throughout the ages have walked this path of seeking understanding, and that many found serenity along the way. You are a part of that timeless tradition now, simply by having pondered these ideas in the peace of your own mind. The specifics may drift away, but the feeling of calm insight and companionship remains. Let the truths and images that spoke to you linger softly, and let any worries or stray thoughts float out of you with each slow, easy breath. Feel the weight of the day's concerns dissolving, replaced by a gentle glow of understanding and the quiet that comes with it. The ancient Greeks often likened the soul to a miniature cosmos. Now, as night envelops you, feel the stars within beginning to glimmer. Your mind, like a clear night sky, is calm, open, and spacious. In this stillness, you might sense that your inner world has its own order and beauty, reflecting the vast order above. And so our narrative softly comes to a close. The philosophers we met fade back into history like characters in a dream, leaving you with their parting gifts of wisdom and peace. In the silence that follows our story, only the gentle chorus of the night continues. Perhaps a distant nightingale, the occasional rasp of cicadas, or the sigh of a midnight breeze through the trees. Let these natural nocturnal sounds be the final lullaby, carrying you further into rest. Sleep now, dear listener, cradled by the enduring calm that philosophy at its best can bring. All the questions of life, big and small, can be set down for now. They will be here for you in the morning, and perhaps, thanks to tonight's gentle tales, some answers will blossom quietly in your dreams or in the dawn. But for now, there is nothing more you need to do, and nowhere else you need to be. Under the same eternal sky that once shone upon Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle as they conversed by day and dreamed by night, you too can close your eyes, release every worry, and drift into a peaceful slumber.